in whatever way gets me home. And by that I mean, if time isn't of the essence, I'll let things come on its own schedule. That's actually the most ideal way, so that it's not forced in any particular way. But usually time is of the essence. So I'll if I'm writing in a particular style, I might inundate myself or saturate myself with some examples of that style. You know, many times when you write for media, the people who come to you asking for music, they have a vision for their project, and a lot of times they'll give you some ideas of what they're looking for. There for a while, it was whatever the latest Batman movie was, or so it obviously would pay to put that in my ear. And that's not to say I did something illegal. It just puts me in that zone. So that I do a lot. If I'm writing a song, well, then I have to wonder what the style of the song is. If it's a guitar-based song, I'll probably monkey around on the guitar a little bit to get the inspiration you get back from an instrument. And also it limits the vocabulary of what I would write, because my guitar skills are not that huge. And then likewise, if it's a Disney song or something, and it's more of a anthem tune or a show song or something, I'll go over to the piano and maybe get my ear tuned into an area that's more ideal for that. Now, that's all when things are going well. If they're not going well, if I can't come up with creative ideas and stumbling a little bit, it's really time for me to get my mind off the subject. So that may mean walking to the mailbox, go doing something else for a little bit. If I do have the luxury of some time and it's later, I'll go to bed. And usually things are better in the morning. So to answer your question, I welcome all wonders when it comes to the creative process. If it's not just occurring to me, I got to go out and find it. Well, when I approach something orchestral, there's usually, once again, there's a need for the music. I'm kind of a task sort of person. I need to be assigned something. That's what usually gets me through projects. So if it's a fireworks show for Disney, let's say, then and I know it's going to be orchestral, I'll jump in with both feet in a style I'm somewhat familiar with. But the funny thing about an orchestra, writing for orchestra, which is what I do for my family educational concert works, which is my main activity in the concert music world. Honestly, the orchestra, once you get to know it a little bit, it's easier than smaller ensembles. You just have so much to turn to. You have full sections. You're not having to compromise your writing because you're limited in numbers of players. Most often you have full sections, 4 French horns. And really, I was talking to a friend recently. Both of us have been working on some string quartet material. And there's no place to hide with the string quartet. Or even smaller ensembles, woodwind quintets, brass quartets or quintets. Everything is so important that I would compare it to being, I used to sing in the choir in college, and I was a tenor among many tenors. And I had some places to hide. Well, that's the way I feel about the orchestra. And by the way, the orchestra, it's just such a wonderful thing that all these players have literally spent their lives dedicated to their instruments. So they want to make anything you give them aesthetically beautiful, and beautiful is a relative thing to people, but whatever they're given on that page, they're going to try and pull it off to the best of their ability, and their abilities seem endless, and so I like that help. I'm very happy to have the orchestra's help. You could give an orchestra, C, E, and G, the notes of a C major chord. They're going to play it, and it's going to sound pretty good. There's ways to voice that so it will sound better than other ways, but they're going to do everything they can with those three notes, and it's going to sound like a really good C major chord. I promise you. Well, therefore, I feel like it's my duty. If I respect music at all, I should try and give them something decent to play. What if I think out my ideas thoroughly, and then not just give them a C major chord, but give them something meaningful that fits into the scheme of the work, and they'll pick up on that, sense that, and feed on it, and it just becomes a beautiful collaboration. So the orchestra, honestly, I don't mean to oversimplify it by saying this, but it's easy, or easier, because it's just so much help, and it's just so gorgeous. The Cabrillo Orchestra, for me, is extra special. In my family educational concert works, they of course have to play music, and the pieces are narrated. There's 9 now, and but there's more, and the orchestra has to participate beyond music. And if they didn't, I would be hung out to dry, because I often give them a line or two here and there, or I give them a little vignette moment, or they got to pretend to do something. Sometimes a whole section has to react as one, and that's all non-musical. So what's special about the Cabrillo Orchestra, and many of the orchestras that do educational concert works, but Cabrillo is particularly good at it and willing, is that just that they are willing. And the funny thing is, not all players are comfortable doing the extra musical stuff. And we've found over the years that when they don't, and it's a little awkward for them, well, that's good too. so, but for the most part, they all try the best of their ability, and sometimes get a little carried away. It's happened. Seen some amazing things on stage that sometimes make me drop a line or two. But the good nature of the first of all, the Cabrillo Music Festival of Contemporary Music comes with a sort of open-mindedness. Let's face it, that's the MO. But also the players come in with that same open mind, and it's always a terrific, fulfilling experience to do these works with them, because we get to goof around. And that's so important, because the works themselves, yes, they're supposed to teach the emerging audience about music, and yes, they're there to expose them to what the symphony orchestra sounds like, which is amazing. But it's also to, in a funny kind of way, to give them all permission to know that they could do this, that those musicians on stage that you usually see in a tux and a bow tie, they're real people. They have all kinds of interests. And so it's a little bit of an invitation to the audience out there that says, you like what you see in here, you can do this. It's okay. You don't have to give up your entire life to do this. All these musicians have lives too. So it's a gas, and I've always appreciated the collaborations with the orchestra at Cabrillo. I write music for all kinds of different reasons, and it's hard to maybe find something common between a commercial underscore and maybe a more serious concert work. But one thing I will say about my writing, I think I do best when there's some sort of narrative involved. I love stories. I've realized recently that my love of sports comes from my love of stories. Every game's a story of sorts. And but back to music, whether it's an underscore for TV, it's really fun to be involved with that story and to collaborate with the actors. I remember when I finished an episode of TV, and by the way, by the time the music was being written, the cast, they had all moved on to they're 2 shows away. They've moved on. Music is last in line. But I always felt like we should have a rap party or something after I finish an episode, which is totally unrealistic. unrealistic, because I felt like I just, you didn't see me, but I felt like I was on stage with these actors. But this is why my educational concert works, I think, agree with me so much. I love writing them. I love performing them. They're stories, more or less, and very shallow. I'm not going to pretend that they're serious stories, but there's a beginning, middle, and an end. And if I hit the right buttons, if I try hard, there's usually a little poignant wrap up near the end that makes me feel good about what I've done, and therefore I've kind of told the story to the audience and given them a little emotional ride at their attendance at this concert. um, well, this is going to show the capitalist in me. I wrote the little logo that plays for CBS syndicated shows, and it's only 3 seconds, but you know, it's ongoing, and it's been a very nice little thing. And I always tell students when I visit schools and talk to them, I say, okay, that 3 seconds of music, how long do you think it took me to write that? And they, of course, guess, you know, 2 minutes or something. And it took a lot of passes. I had approval processes. And then I always pull another one out of the hat. How long do you think it took us to record that 3 seconds of music? Well, we did a 3 second, a 5 second, and I think a 20 second. And we spent a couple hours recording that with the world's best recording musicians. So we scrutinized it. So you can't, I don't think you can compare time, elapsed time of a piece of music with elapsed time of how long it took to write it. And the audience should never care about that, by the way. If it's not good, and I've deemed it not worthy, I won't put it out there. Here's the funny thing, and a good argument for collaborations. Sometimes what you think is bad is good. And it's one of the beautiful things about collaborations. And I have experiences to prove that that's true. I almost threw out something that had real serious legs. And my collaborator said, "What was that?" and stopped me before I trashed it. And whew, I I don't think I write music just for myself. I always, in fact, I'm sensitive. If I'm working on something, I worry that someone might be overhearing my work, because that might constrain me. I'm just sensitive. You know, it's a flaw, I'm sure, but I don't mind having the door closed, which it is, while I'm working on something. And when I think it's ready to go, I'm happy to put it out there. But I sure hope people hear my stuff. That's why I do it. I have to qualify my conducting. Now, you know, I'm a ranger composer, and I live in Southern California, so I work in that entertainment industry that's out here. And I conduct my own sessions. I don't want to conduct live. It's just a whole different discipline, and I have so much respect for conductors. In fact, whenever I worked with a conductor, I always picked their brain. You know, what about that pull of the orchestra? And do I do it in one, or should I do it in three? Is the Sorcerer's Apprentice in three, or is it really three? You know, stuff like that. I don't pretend to be a real live conductor. I like to think that I play one on TV, which is a cliche thing to say. But when you're the writer and you're on a session, it's a really good point of position to be in, to be behind the podium, because two things. I'm right there with them. If I want to communicate a change, I can lean down in the concertmaster's parts. They're right there next to me. I can communicate so much better. And a lot of times there's click tracks when I'm conducting, so it's not like the music will stop if I stop. But I can convey things like cutoffs and energy and emotions like that maybe I didn't put in. Maybe I was in too much of a hurry. Maybe I didn't get it all in the parts. So it's good to be in the room as the writer on a project. As far as narration goes, with the orchestra, it's actually a problem for me sometimes. If I'm standing on a stage with a good orchestra and they're playing my stuff, well, the composer in me wants to stop talking and listen. But of course, the narrator has to keep talking, and it's sometimes hard. And if it's a premiere, it's doubly difficult because we're troubleshooting parts that have never been read, music that's never been played by human beings, and that's the composer hat I have to have on at that moment. Meanwhile, we had limited rehearsals for all the premieres we did at Cabrillo, and it was nerve-wracking. And I know I lost weight. I know I lost weight on those days, but I would have to be the narrator, and suddenly I'd have to keep an ear out and maybe fix something in a moment. And there was never much time to fix things, but I do what I could. It was hard being both for the premieres. And after that, it's hard to sometimes, I honestly wish the narrator would shut up, which of course is me much of the time. So the composer wants to listen. Be quiet, Greg. Who are you talking to? Talking to you. Well, my father was a jeweler in the jewelry business. I might have gotten sucked into that, but it wouldn't have been a good idea to get too involved with colored stones. I'm colorblind. But I don't know. I've never. I like the idea of being a mailman, just walking around, and usually people are happy to see you. I guess ask me tomorrow. I'll think about it. I have many memories, feelings about the Cabrillo Festival. It's hard to single out one. Allow me one of my fondest memories. It's just the greatest place because it's all new music and it's all people there who want to play it and people there that want to hear it. It's just a great mix. But my all-time greatest memory is about our dear friend Christopher Rouse. I had driven up. It was a Friday, and I wasn't due until Sunday morning, but I wanted to attend the first weekend. And I think it was 2016 when they were playing his oboe concerto with Catherine Needleman, amazing oboist. And I got there at intermission of the rehearsal, and there was a table set up right in front of the podium, and there sitting was my buddy Christopher Rouse, and Ella Fredrickson met me and said hello, and she said, "Hey, we're gonna rehearse the oboe concerto this afternoon. We're about ready to restart. I got an extra score." So she handed me the score, and I sat down next to Chris Rouse, not 10, 12 feet away from the oboe soloist, and right, of course, next to Marin with the orchestra all around. And that's the first time I heard that piece, which I love then, I love now. And to think that I was there just in sync, turning pages with the composer, the first time I heard it, it's what Cabrillo has done for me. And there's a lot of great stories from my experiences with Cabrillo, and I'm grateful for each and every one.